This is the solution video for Year 11 Homework 4. So we get straight into question 1. You've got to expand your brackets here. Minus signs are the thing to be careful with, so let's start. Minus 3 multiplied by x is plus 3x. Minus 3 times minus 2 is plus 6. Minus 4 times 2 is minus 8. And then finally, minus 4 times minus x is plus 4x, and there were some students that wrote a minus there. Be careful with that. Collecting together, collect your x's, 7x, and then finally 6 to take away 8 is minus 2 there. So the answer is 7x minus 2. On to part B. When you square something, times it by itself. A plus B, A plus B. There are a couple of students that got this wrong. You need to be careful with, you get 4 answers and then you collect them together. So A squared, remember I'm multiplying. That makes AB. That one also makes AB. So if you think about it, I've got 2 of them now. So I've got 2AB. And then finally, B times B is B squared. So that's the answer, and you can have that answer in any order you want. On to question C, 8x squared. That makes minus 4x, and that bit there makes plus 28x. If you gather them together, you get plus 24x. And then finally, minus 2 times 7 is minus 14. So that's the answer to that. This last one I'm going to have to do in 2 stages. If you expand this first set of double brackets using the techniques shown above, you get x squared minus x minus 6. So I'll just write that down. X squared minus x minus 6. Now that needs to be in brackets. Some of you missed those brackets. And I'm going to multiply it by the other bracket there. Now I would think at least half of this class have dropped a minus sign in somewhere that they shouldn't have done. So watch the 6 things that I write down now. If I do the first 3 in blue, so watch this. That times that is x cubed. Now I could do that times that. That's going to be minus x squared. And then finally, that times the x is minus 6x. So that's fairly standard, that bit's not too bad. Now I'll do the other 3 in green. I'm going to multiply those same 3 things in that first bracket by the minus 1 that's in the second bracket. So it'll get a little bit messy this on the diagram, but watch. That makes minus x squared. That x times that minus 1 there. Minus x times minus 1 is plus x. So that's where a lot of you went wrong. And then finally the minus 6 times the minus 1 is plus 6. Now that is quite a busy diagram now. I've coloured all over it like that. But you should be able to collect them together to get the right answer now. Collecting the x cubed, got one of them. So I'll write my final answer in black here actually. So I've got x cubed. I've run out of space actually. I'll just squash it in the bottom. X cubed. And I've got minus x squared minus another x squared, so minus 2x squared. This is the bit where a lot of you went wrong. I've got minus 6x plus x, so that's minus 5x. You'll find half the class I've written minus 7x there. And then collecting the numbers together, it just says plus 6 on the end of there, just a little bit of space then to write that in. So I've got x cubed minus 2x minus 5x plus 6, and as I said, it's the minus 5x that's caused problems for many students. I will move on to question 2. Multiplying the length and width to work out the area of this rectangle. Some of you accidentally just started using x's in this question, and there aren't any. Use t. It's t in the question, so it's 2t plus 5 multiplied by the other length, 4t minus 3. Now using exactly the same techniques as I did in the previous question. 8t squared, that's that bit. Now under there is plus 20t. That bit there is minus 6t. And then finally that bit over there is minus 15. Collecting together a final answer of 8t squared plus 14t minus 15. Moving on to question 3. This caught some of you out. I would say generally speaking the class did well on this, but actually there's a few students that weren't sure where to start. One of your problems there is you should have come to see me for help. It says what's d squared. Now you know a relationship for right angle triangles. You know that the 2 short sides squared and added together equal the long side squared. So actually if I was to write that as a, for this triangle, I get the long side squared equals one of the short sides squared plus the other short side squared. That's a 5 there. So I've got 2x plus 3 all squared plus 3x plus 5 all squared. Now, one person just stopped there. You've got to multiply it all out and expand and collect and simplify at the end. Some students also didn't read the question properly. If you've seen RQT written in your book, it's probably on this question because you tried to find D. It says in the question at the top, find B squared. So you need to be reading the question carefully. Let's actually expand and simplify then. This first bracket, 2x plus 3 all squared, is 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. The second bracket is going to be 9x squared plus 30x plus 25. And if I collect that all together into one final answer, collect my x squareds, 13 of them, collect my x's, 42 of them, finally collect my numbers, I've got 34 on the end of there. That's the answer. It says work out an expression in terms of x for d squared. And if you did stop here, technically, you have answered the question correctly and you have formed an expression, but I think it was obvious you should really be expanding and collecting on this whole homework. So next time, maybe ask if you're not sure, and then you can expand and collect and get the full right answer. On to question 4. Now this question's rare because the whole class have got it wrong. Unless someone can correct me on Monday, I think that no one's got this right. And that's because you don't know how to find the upper and lower bounds of this number here. A lot of you have done the right thing for the 30 metres but didn't know what to do for 5 seconds. So let's see now. If I write upper bound and lower bound, and you need to correct this on your sheet that I've given you in purple pen and write down a little thing or maybe a sentence or two about what went wrong. Now I'm going to do the upper and lower bound of the easy one first of all, the 30 metres. Upper bound of that is 35 because we're rounding to one sig fig, it stays there. The first column is the tens, so I'm rounding to the nearest 10, so the biggest it can be is 35, smallest it can be is 25. And for absolute clarity on that, by 35 I'm really talking about 34.9 recurring. And that should be obvious that will round down to 30. In this topic you are allowed to use 35 in a calculation, which does confuse some students. Now the bad bit, this 5 has been rounded to 1 decimal place. Now you need to think about that. For it to have been rounded to 1 decimal place to 5, and this should make sense as soon as I say it, the smallest it could be is 4.95. If it was 4.94, it would round down to 4.9. So think about it, 4.95, 4.96, 4.97 and so on. All of those numbers round to 5.0. And it does say 1 decimal place is to be used here. So in a question where something's been rounded to 1 decimal place, it's your job to think about 2 decimal places when you're dealing with bounds. Now at the other end of it, at the upper bound, it's actually 5.05. 5.05. Again, I'm actually talking about 5.049 recurring, which would round back down to 5. And these 2 green numbers that I've written, I'll just get rid of that, these 2 green numbers that I've written on the left hand side, here and here, are the problem for the whole class. That's where it went wrong on this homework for some of you. Speed equals distance over time. Let's finish this question then. Speed equals distance over time. If I want to find the maximum speed, it does say the upper bound of the speed, I'm going to divide the biggest possible distance by the smallest possible time. So I actually want to do 35 divided by 4.95. And if you check that on your calculators, to 1 decimal place it's actually 7.1. And as I said before, I don't think anyone in the class got that right. Units on that, it's the speed, we've got metres and seconds, so it's metres per second, you write that like this, metres per second. So just put those units in as well. On to question 5. Sohcahtoa. Write that one down. You should always write that in an exam when you see trigonometry. Sohcahtoa. I'm going to find angle theta first of all. I'll just label that there, theta. You often use theta for an unknown angle in an exam. Pretend alpha's not there. It's a 3, 4, 5 triangle actually, but I don't need the 5, the hypotenuse. I'm just going to use the 3 and the 4. If I name them based on the angle theta, 4 is the opposite and 3 is the adjacent. opposite and adjacent. It's a tan question, and I think the whole class got that actually. Tan of the angle I'm trying to find equals opposite over adjacent. There was at least one student that got those the wrong way around. You need to make sure you look at that, opposite over adjacent. That must mean that theta is the angle tan to the minus 1 of those numbers, and if you work that, that's 4 over 3, if you work that out on your calculator, I got the answer 53.1 something, ... degrees. Now that's the angle theta. You'll notice theta plus alpha equals 180. So if I take my previous answer away from 180, I can find the answer I need, 126.9. And degrees, go back and check if you had units on your answer. Some of you didn't, and I added it in for you. The units are important. It could be a mark, so just look out for it. And onto the last page of the homework now. Question 6. Probably half the class had a problem with this. We'll talk about it now. Given that a shop has had a 12% sale, and if a shop's had a 12% sale, that means all prices are now 88% of what they used to be, because 12% has been taken off. So this £44 in the question must represent 88%. £44 is 88%. That's because 12% has already been taken from it. If you want to work out 1% from that situation, you divide by 88. So if I will divide by 88 there, that will be 1% of the original price. Times it by 100, you've got your original price, and it's actually 50 quid. The problem with some students on this topic is that they fall into the trap of thinking you can just add 12% back on to the £44. It doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work is because 12% of 44 is different to 12% of 50. And the 12% was of the £50 and was then taken away. So the only way to do it is, as I did it, work out what percentage you are actually dealing with, divide by that, and times by 100. The answer 50, and that was a misconception for quite a few people in this group. And that leads me on to the final question. This was a nightmare for some of you. I wrote it as just a little extra thing at the end, and I've actually found a problem for this group that a lot of you need to work on. I would use common denominators, and I'm going to deal with the fact that some of you didn't notice the minus signs first of all. You've got to subtract, then add, subtract, then add. So there's a problem for some of you straight away, reading the question. Secondly, some of you don't know what these dotted decimals are. This 0.3 with a dot on it is a third. 0.1 with a dot on it is 1/9, and that's something to learn. 0.2 with a dot on it is 2/9, and so on. 1 3/4 is 7/4, and one person did actually write 7/3 there, and that ruined the question. And then finally 1.2, that's 1 2/10, or 1 1/5, 6/5, in other words. Get your signs in, like that. And then common denominator. I used a common denominator of 180. It was a number I could think of that they would all go into. And you turn them all into 180, like that. And then it's a matter of adjusting numerators accordingly. Multiply that one up to 1/6. The next one becomes 60. There's an add sign there. You get 315. And then finally 20 on that one there. And then, because they've all got the same denominator of 180, you can now just add and subtract the numerators accordingly. You will get the answer 451 over 180. So I'll write my answer on the left over here, 451 over 180, which some people even took one stage further and simplified it into 2 and 91 over 180. If you use decimals, you missed the point on that question there, and I did make that clear on the homework hint video. That's it. Hope you found that useful and you've corrected your mistakes in purple. If you haven't done that yet, maybe go back, pause the video, correct everything. And there's no challenge question this week. I will set you an independent challenge, and that is to go and learn upper and lower bounds for different types of rounding. 1, 2, 3 significant figures, 1, 2 decimal places, nearest 10, nearest 1,000, etc. You need to learn how to find the upper and lower bounds of numbers, and then that will help you calculate with them. So that's a personal revision topic for the whole group. Right, look out for homework 5, and don't forget to watch the hint video if you get stuck. That's it.